Hey, everybody. Welcome to the League of Legends Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Kill Zil. I'm here today with Astroz BK
What's up?
and Danger Penguin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
It's your favorite trio.
It's
What
the,
more
o-
How's
can I ask
everybody
for?
doing?
it's the only trio, honestly.
That's true.
I'm doing alright.
Yeah?
I won my ranked games today, unlike
Hey, I
yesterday.
won a ranked game today. Thanks to you. Thanks for carrying me, boo.
I mean, I got
We got
bot
a new
fed.
power duo.
I was
Actually,
playing
we
jungle.
have the highest win rate, I think, of any duo amongst the podcasters, I would bet.
I'm 100% with you and 100% with Ponderous.
Oh, well, Ponderous doesn't count. He's banned.
Yeah.
Is he on LOLA anymore?
He's
He's banned from League?
No, he's
Yeah,
banned from League for
he got
14
another
days.
14 days.
What? When did this happen?
About
He's
10
probably
days ago,
he's,
so he'll
he,
be back
he-
soon.
he's almost unbanned. I think he might be
Okay.
actually. He had a Draven jungle who was like 0-14 and he told him to stick a fork in an electrical outlet.
Okay. Yep, that'll do it. Typing mean things gets you banned.
I don't know how I haven't been banned yet, but
That's a good question, actually.
I think
People are
I'm
just
paying
sad for you.
right. True.
What's up with my duo partners? How's getting banned?
I don't know. This guy thinks he's like really good because he's like plat 1.
Oh, that's true. Danger's like excelled above the rest of us.
Well, I mean, I
Feels
carried
pretty
him.
good, I'm
I
not gonna
carried him
lie.
through the early parts of his climb.
It was
Got
nice.
to the rough spots.
I got him through gold into plat.
Right. That's where it's really hard. Once you get to plat 2, it's fine.
I gave him 2 wins in his plat promos, like,
Now it's just clear sailing.
Wow.
and he literally just left me, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. That's the kind of guy Danger is. So anyone who thought about being a Danger fan, you might want to rethink that.
Might want to return those penguin emotes that you guys got on the shop.
Just know out there, kids, solo and duo queue, all that matters is your own solo experience. So.
That's pretty toxic.
Brutal.
And people say I'm like unhealthy for the game.
Yeah, see, it's the nice ones that'll fool you.
That's actually true. People think I'm nice, and then they realize what champions I play, and they're like, "Oh God."
Really,
I
he's
hate you.
toxic.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I measure the success of my game by how much fun my opponents do not have. That is.
Oh yeah, I know.
That is
You
I thought-
laugh out loud.
I thought
Oh,
you
I-
measured it by how many minions you kill.
No, it is a fetish of mine for sure, but it's not my in goal game right there.
See, we have like you don't like seeing enemy champions, and I don't like seeing enemy champions, but I want to see them for like the 2 seconds they're alive before I blow them up because I like playing
No.
assassins.
I want to like unless there's like 5 enemy champions and 4 allied champions on my screen, I don't want to interact with anybody. That's just how this is. Not unless I know where everyone is.
That's fair.
I don't think it
I don't
is.
like
I think
surprises.
I think that's unfair for the other players in the game.
Maybe that's what the skin will be, a surprise party Zillion.
Ooh, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah. I'm because they're coming. They said they're coming out with a Zillion skin this year, which is like a really big deal for me, and me only. But yeah,
It'll
I'm
probably
really
be in
curious what
December.
they come with.
It
In
can't be.
December?
They already have a Saint Nick skin for him. They won't give him another Christmas skin.
That's true. So not December. Okay, cool. I can mark that off the list.
Maybe like a Halloween skin, like Spooky
Halloween
Ghost
skin?
Zillion, or like Trick or Treater
God.
Zillion, and you throw like candy instead of bombs.
Huh?
I just
I could see
I
that.
just hope they. What I really hate is when they like make skins redundant. Like like it has to be something different. I think for a skin to be interesting, like having Time Machine Zillion. It's like yeah, he's a time wizard already. Like I don't know, get away from the time theme. Let's do something else.
I could see that.
Yeah, like I want a Mecha Zillion, like something that's crazy. Or
I feel like it looked terrible.
He doesn't care how it looks. He just wants it.
He could have like helicopter blades on his back and be like this, transforming kind of mecha sort of thing, right?
Maybe, I
Something
guess.
really crazy with like a long beard that's like has all these like hinges in it and stuff.
You know what?
Ah,
Is this the episode about skins? Is that the
I don't
plan?
know. No, we're gonna talk a little bit about the meta today, but I was just getting to hang out with you guys. I haven't seen you all in a little while, so
Yeah, you've been dead 80 ping,
true.
having boy.
it's true. Yeah, I've
So
got cable internet and no fiber for the next month. Getting in the new house, getting settled, and then that'll switch over. Then I'll be back to playing ranked more steadily.
Nice.
So yeah, right now I'm just kind of taking a break, taking it easy, and to stay sharp though. So I play a couple games a week at least.
Yeah,
So
you don't want to lose the skills.
no,
I
but
mean,
I like definitely noticed my bombs were like not as fast as they should be because of the ping, and maybe because of my slow fingers. I don't know.
No, it's
But
the ping for sure.
definitely the
I
ping.
mean, I blame my ping when it's like 35 instead of 33. So I mean, I completely understand. I mean, 35 ping is almost unplayable.
That's true. I play at like 21, so
I play in between there usually. So it's just like triple that. It feels real bad.
Well, speaking of ranked, there are some like really good champions that make your ranked play like a lot easier.
Are we going to talk about those today?
I thought we were just gonna bring it up and then talk about something
Oh,
else.
that's great. Let's do that. No, let's talk about champions that are great. So, which champions do you think are great, Astros?
Well, I mean, every role like solo queue, I feel like top laners. You got your Rivens, your Jacks. York's good. Olaf is good.
Olaf
Conquer
is good.
Olaf
Really?
is really
Conquer
broken
Olaf
right
is really strong.
Okay. Is it because the Conqueror changes?
I mean,
now. Yeah, they work well with him.
Olaf
But
is
Okay.
just a really strong champion. He's good in the duelist. Jace is good. I almost forgot him.
Yeah, Jace is good right now. Halo Blades Jace, right?
I don't
hey,
think so.
there's a lot of different choices you can go
Okay.
with Jace right now. You see a lot of sorcery still with the Airy. You can see
Okay.
electrocute too. It's all over the board,
Irelia
but
is still good.
especially in the top lane right now because her shield only works against AD now. So Aurelia top has come back in force.
And Silas.
Yes.
Yes.
Silas
Even
is
though I
very
think
strong.
with the buffs from 9.5, he's going to move more into a mid laner because they buffed his AP ratios.
Right.
Yeah, I'm hoping they bury Tank Silas because well, I wanted an AP bruiser. It's the way it is right now, at least the way that they have it playing, it is very unhealthy. It's not enjoyable to not being able to hurt him, and then he gets down to 40% health after you just send 3 guys at him, and then he Qs once and he's at full health again.
Yeah, it's
Right.
W, but
Oh, W. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
I mean,
The
I
Q's the
really
difference.
like the champion's really fun to play. I still don't like the ult interaction. I like the rest of his kit.
I do think it's a good kit. I just don't think that the numbers are like I wouldn't mind if they tone down that healing and then you can keep the tank build in because then I'm fine with it. But if they want to push him into being like an AP heavy guy and go with changing the ratios, I understand it. I would have preferred him be like a bruiser AP tankish guy, but his play pattern is not healthy in my opinion, and I think they recognize that because they're going away from it.
I feel like maybe an AP bruiser could be a jungler, but like you put them in the top lane role where they get all that like farm and XP, it kind of makes them too strong too early. What
I
do you
mean, I
think?
feel like the only AP bruiser that you have that's melee is like I consider Mundo like actually an AP bruiser, and they
Okay.
changed him on 9.5, I think, where he's now like he's super strong in AP comps.
He is, yeah. They changed his
But
magic resist even
like
more.
he's so bad into like most AD bruisers because they get on you and they stay on you, and he has a Q slow, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Right.
So like Silas was like an AP bruiser is champion that you could play into AD matchups, and he fared well into them.
So the way Silas is interacting right now, in my opinion, is exactly the way that Tank Echo used to be. So
Yeah, but
you
I prefer
you could
this over
do it.
Tank Echo.
I prefer almost everything over Tank Echo, but to me they feel similar. It
No, I
feels
think I
like
think they are very similar.
yeah. So, but I agree with your list. I think that's pretty spot on. And what you'll notice is that top lane is heavily influenced right now by bruisers. You'll see a lot in the like LCS, LCK, and stuff like that. You'll see a lot of mages going top right now. And I think that's because they can handle bruisers kind of. You can keep their range. You'll see a lot of Rise. You'll see a
Rise,
lot of Kennen right now
Nico,
too.
Can
Nico was
Cassio
great.
go top now? You think?
Hoonie's
Cassio is
played it.
everywhere. Yeah,
Oh man.
Cassio's top, mid, and it is the number 1 ADC right now.
I can
Cassio
actually
is.
play Cassio. That's the
Cassio's
one.
just a really, really strong champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even after they
Alright.
even after they nerfed the Q max idea.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I
so
was reading somewhere that people were taking Conqueror with her. That sounds really fun.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
The champion is strong, but it's like it's certain matchup dependent, and she's hard to play now from like a way of like positioning. If you play AD and you're a good AD carry, you can probably play Cass. You just have to land your Q.
and you
Sure.
see it. You see like Sneaky and stuff playing
No, yeah.
playing Cass right now because she's in a really strong state. But that's kind of the state of the top lane right now. You're not seeing a lot of tanks go top lane and be successful. They just can't deal with the lane, and they don't scale hard enough until you're like way late, and then there's just a little bit too much true damage. So the only tanks you can see that are going decent are the health stack tanks like Scion.
Yeah.
Got anyone else to add to that? I think Fiora's okay too. You can play Fiora.
You could play Fiora into certain matchups, right? It can be matchup dependent. No, I think the first ones that you listed though, like Jace and Riven and
Relia, Jax.
Yeah.
Jax. You can see Renekton quite a bit right now too.
Sure.
I just feel like he's not as popular. I think Renekton is.
People don't like him as much because he's a beast.
I don't even know if it's that. Renekton.
Little known fact, it's true. They released all their stats, and they're like, anytime they make like a creature, they instantly are played less than anything humanoid.
That's so interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that is weird. We don't like playing animals. That's
We
strange.
We like playing humans.
Unless they're anthropomorphized beyond.
I mean, I was a
recognition.
Thresh main, so I guess I stay away from that stereotype.
But no, but he is super strong right now, Renekton. You can once
I
you get
just-
Spear Sojourn on him, he's
I feel like
Yeah.
he's worse. I feel like he carries less than the Rivens and the Jacks that can, you
'cause
know,
they scale harder.
they
right?
scale harder and they still can kill you early.
It's
Like,
still a good early game. Yep. I agree.
so you don't see a lot of tank tops, but you see a lot of like viable tank junglers. Like Nunu,
Mhm.
super strong. You can play.
Sejuani's still good.
Sejuani is
I love
good.
Sage.
I say I'd stay away from it in solo queue because it's actually really hard to carry on, and playing around Sedge is something that like your team actually has to understand.
Yeah, I could see that.
Say Gragas is pretty good. You see Ivern.
Oh, Ivern's really
Ivern's
strong right
super
now.
strong.
So the support junglers are like just crazy good right now. Like Nunu
Redemption
and
Olaf.
Ivern both play like tank. Yeah, even when Olaf is going jungle, he's getting redemption right now. So it's an interesting world, but they're definitely very strong, very good. The other good jungles include like Rek'Sai.
Rek'Sai
you've
is
seen come
super
back
strong.
from the Nether, not being in existence for a long time. You'll see a lot of like Jarvan in like LCS and stuff.
Yeah, I think Jarvan's a good solo queue champion too. He does a lot of damage early.
Yep, and his abilities are very nice for helping lock people down.
And he's a pretty mechanically easy champion. E, Q, W, R. Like, they're all pretty straightforward. Xin Zhao I still think is super strong. Udyr is really good with Conqueror.
Especially in and
And especially in
solo
lower
queue,
elo and solo
Yeah.
queue, yeah.
because you can't kite as well, so
Mhm.
or other people can't kite as well, so you can just run at them.
I think you're going to see a rise of Skarner play because of the 9.5 changes. They made it so
Yeah.
when Skarner takes a shrine, it doesn't flash on the map. It doesn't change.
And
Unless
it
you
Oh, wow.
covers
It covers
red and
everything in your jungle.
Krugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now before it would slow it down, and now he's got full speed. So no, those are legit buffs.
I
You're
played a lot of
definitely seeing rise
Skarner last season, and you wouldn't take Krugs unless you had Smite, because it's just too slow to clear.
and now that won't be an issue.
It will not be an issue.
Have you tried out the Vi changes yet?
No. I feel like she's gonna feel bad for the Vi mains because she's not gonna deal as much damage. They're pushing her towards that.
Yeah, she's a bruiser now instead
bruiser
of a
now?
burst. Yeah.
Which,
Right.
I mean, I could see it being beneficial. It makes it so you're more useful late game,
Yeah,
and
there's
you
a
don't
lot more that you
insta
can
die.
do. I'd like to try her out, see what she's like. But no, I'd say yeah, the support junglers are huge. Um, the bruiser junglers are pretty good. You'll see even Riven go jungle right now and be pretty damn good at that as well. You'll get the occasional Karthus, which I still loathe.
I think
Going
jungle is one of the
jungle.
most open roles right now. You can play tanks in it. You can play your Iverns, your Redemption Olaf. You can play your assassins. They're like Kha'Zix is still pretty good.
Yep, Kane. I mean, usually you go
I think Kane is like
red
a
Kane.
solo queue champion.
He should be. Like if you're considering jungle at a low elo, Kane is a great option because if you learn the gank paths, you will climb because no one else in lower elo understands those gank paths. You just can't prepare for it. It's hard at high elo to prepare for Kane, like pathing because he can path anywhere and he can avoid wards and it's super annoying.
He clears super fast. He has healthy clear. I mean, you can commit to ganks. You don't deal the most damage, but you can commit to ganks early, and you're pretty mobile, so you can get your orbs pretty safely. Your ganks don't have to end up in kills to be beneficial or helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And Conqueror works well on him right now too. I like Conqueror on him.
Yeah, but that's only if you're going Red Cane. I mean, I still.
Well, yeah, and I'd also suggest Red Cane most of the time because Red Cane is very helpful to the team later on. You can go Blue Cane if you're up against a team of squishies, and he can be devastating.
No, I still say go Red Cane every time. Like,
But
very
yeah,
rarely do I think Blue Cane. Like, unless you
I'd
just
say
Blue Cane
90% of
super
the time
early.
Red Cane.
If you Blue Cane, like, pre 7 minutes, it's like, well, I'm not gonna, like, you've obviously already taken over the game in a really big way, and if you can't, like, you picking Blue Cane, as long as you don't drag that game out super long, you should win that game.
Mm-hmm.
But just Red Cane does just as much damage early, especially to squishies. You're harder to kill. You get more sustain off your ult. Like, I think it's just better.
But basically, what we're saying is anything is viable in the jungle right now.
Yeah, honestly, I think this was one of the most open metas we've actually had in a long time, and I also feel like between the roles, it's the most balanced meta we've had.
And I think that's due to Riot's lack of big swings right now, right? They've said they're going to try and avoid the like massive meta changing changes like all the time, right? Before every 3 or 4 patches, you would hit like something that would just throw everything into a loop. Oh, we've decided to change all the jungle items, and then that used to be their plan, and you can actually see their plan for the last like half a year. Like it's been frustrating for slow turnarounds, right? Like Urgot was unbearable in top lane for like 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, why are they being so slow to adjust? But I think it's because they're trying to get into this pattern where they make adjustments when someone gets out of whack, but not huge adjustments to the gameplay. And I think it's actually benefited the gameplay. I don't like some of the other changes that we've gone into far too often on this podcast, so we won't get into that. But the actual state of like playable characters in the meta, I think is something they have done well recently.
Yeah.
Because so much more has opened up. Yes, the top tanks are in a bad spot right now. I think they could do a few things for them to help change that. But
last
jungle
season
tanks
this
are still
early,
a thing at least.
Yeah, last season this early, we were dealing with funneling, right? Like
Ugh.
pretty close.
No, we were dealing. Funneling didn't come out right at the beginning of the season.
No.
It was the beginning of the after mid-season.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, so
we were dealing with tanks
mages?
at the beginning of this season because Aftershock was super broken.
Yeah,
oh wait,
Bruisers didn't have Conqueror and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, it was tanks, like tanky supports, and mages that took Airy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and those were like super oppressive. Like solo lanes were really shitty unless you played certain characters, and there were too many people to ban to like make it worthwhile.
Like I was pretty annoyed. So I think my biggest gripe with like coming into season 9, right? Season 9 was that they didn't change it like a lot at all, and then we still had the super long preseason. I don't care about like I'd rather the game not change dramatically and change everything and keep everything in more of a playable balanced state, because like just seeing more than one champion is really cool. It makes like what you ban like more valuable.
Yeah.
And it just makes it like a more fun experience, not seeing the same the same 5 to 10 champions banned and the same 20 25 champions picked almost every game.
I agree.
It's just
I
I
think there's
don't
a
like.
reason to have 150 people to choose from. 150 characters on your roster, and anytime that you see it where it's like, okay, these 30 are viable and these 120 probably not. Like that's never been a good. And when entire groups get phased out of the game, like that's never been fun. So I think
Nope.
that like the marksmen have had a good resurgence ever since the crit change. I see a lot of Vaynes right now. I think Vayne is incredibly strong. I think she's very dangerous.
I think Jinx is I think the highest win rate AD carry right now. Jinx is super
brutal.
strong.
Yeah.
But
Jinx,
I
Twitch,
like that
Ashe.
Jinx is back.
Yeah, she
because
hasn't
she
seen
was
play in
gone for so
forever.
long.
No, yeah.
And it's good to have intermixing playstyles, right? But you can still see quite a few that are viable. I see, like I said, Vayne. You got Jinx. I think Ashe has gotten a lot of pro play. Lucian is still very good. Ez is still broken. I'm looking forward to him being nerfed.
I mean, somehow Ez sits at like a 48% win rate.
It's because
in solo
everyone
queue.
plays him.
No, that's
the
true.
only reason that
I
he's at a
think Kaisa
48%
is still
win rate.
really strong. I mean, you have 9 out of 19 quote unquote 80 carries. That includes Heimer and Cassiopeia. So if you take those two out, you have 8 out of 17 80 carries above a 50% win rate.
Yeah, so it shows that it's open right now, and you can have a lot of value there. But it also shows with Cassiopeia and Heimer in there that there are options, and you'll see kill lanes in pro play right now. You'll see a Yasuo Alistar lane, because they can play around it. So I think when Riot did their change to try and force, like not all ADCs, and they pushed too many mages into the bot lane, I think getting the ADCs viable again, it still is something that's out there that you get to see every now and so I like it when you see it every now and then, like, oh sweet, there's a Yasuo bot, like not in my solo queue games. By the way, I never want to see you in my solo queue games, but
I'm coming to your solo queue games.
but if I'm gonna watch a game, I don't mind seeing a Yasuo bot every now and then. I don't want to see it every game, but I like the spice that it adds, the difference, the interest that it can present. So yeah, I mean, I think bot's in a good spot.
So
right
you
now.
like people trolling in your games? That's what I hear, Danger.
Yes, exactly.
That's why you stopped
Please.
doing with me.
Yeah. It's
So
because you're a Yasuo one trick, and then you get
I'm not a
banned in
one
70%
trick.
of the game. I know you're not. I'm just messing with you.
I've played
But he
so
does
many
get banned in
champions
70%
this
of the
season.
games.
I've played 20 champions this
If there's
season.
anyone that's not a one trick on this podcast, I think it's Astroz.
That's fair.
I literally
he actually switches roles every season, which is crazy. Like, what the fuck?
Hey, I switched roles back to my original role this season.
Wow, that's so hard.
It's so diverse.
Man, I could only imagine how hard it would be to go back and play support.
I love it.
Yeah, you gotta
So-
go outside your box sometimes, guys.
So Zil, I got some interesting news. I want you to guess what the number 1 win rate mid laner is right now, according to op.gg or champion.gg.
Is it Zillion?
It is.
Yes, I knew it would be. It's been there before, recently.
I haven't checked recently.
Yeah, no, I check from time to time. It's just the play rate is so low, they don't care. The only one who beats it out
0.63 is your play rate.
Yeah, it's insane. No, the only one who beats it out is fucking Time Dragon. Aurelion Sol.
You know what's crazy? Aurelion Sol has a higher play percent than Zillion.
Isn't it crazy though? I find that fascinating. Why does no one play my champion? I don't. Please don't play my champion. I want to play my champion.
Right, yes. Exactly. You don't want to play against your champion.
So I think mid lane is super open role right now. I think you can literally play almost anything you want there.
We can play Smite Zillion mid and it'll work.
We can keep saying the same shit for each role, which is a good thing, But I think the only thing that's not super viable mid right now is I've seen like a few like attempts at tank mid, like Scions or something, and I don't.
Well, that's just off meta.
Yeah,
let's just not get into
I don't
that.
think that works very well. I've seen it in pro play some too.
What about Galio? Where's he at?
Oh, Galio is a support.
Okay.
He doesn't deal enough damage.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But he's got enough to lock you down to make him super valuable as support. But he's only viable support if you're good with his R, right? Because you need to be able to enter and roam at the right times with that. And I think that can be very tricky because now that it doesn't add a shield, it's not nearly as useful unless you hit the knockup. You have to hit the knockup, otherwise it's just I teleported there.
Right.
So, but no, I'd still say for the most part you see mage control mages and mage assassins mid right now.
I mean, I
mean,
think
Zed's strong too. Don't
Zed
get me
is
wrong,
really
but
Zed got big buffs. Talon I think is pretty strong. Yasuo is probably one of the best champions in the game right now.
and his ban rate proves it.
I mean, he's
Yep.
at like a 7% ban rate.
He's
7.5.
at like a 70% ban rate.
It's
He's
7.5 in
not in
platinum
my
buff.
games. I
Yeah.
deleted him from my game. So
Well, you play
I
2
don't-
games a week, so it doesn't count. You're not in this number.
Right. Fair enough. But when I return,
But I think LeBlanc is strong right now. I think Ari's in a good spot.
Ari's in a really
I
good
have
spot.
seen no Aries.
Really,
I've played
every
it.
time I ban Yasuo, I get an Ari. It's like
I
the
see
second
Zed
go-to
almost every
back.
game.
Oh yeah, Zed's
So I
solid,
have
but,
2
like,
games of Ari and solo queue this season, and I didn't die in any of them.
She is
Yeah.
super mobile, which is super frustrating.
It's not even just that she's mobile. She just does like a lot of damage. Like my KDA on Ari. Oh, I have 3 games. Apparently, I've lost 1. I have a 12.5 KDA on the champion, and I'm bad. Like, now I think LeBlanc is super strong. Yasuo. I think Katarina is actually in a pretty decent spot right now. I don't think
I
you have
agree.
to take Electrocute on her. I think you can take Dark Harvest and you can play for late. Like a lot of people just don't know that she has like a pretty decent level 2 spike.
Yeah.
Because
Like-
people don't understand like that Katarina is now all about the daggers. When she
Yeah.
teleports to that dagger and it spins, that thing does a shit ton of damage.
hmm
So I agree. Like a lot of people don't play around them like you should be. Like they're like bombs on the ground if you're walking on
Mhm.
them. Because that thing will spike you in a fucking second.
I think
Um,
Nico got
Silas
buffed.
is good mid too.
Yeah, Nico I think is really good, especially
I'm
with her
interested.
E
I'm interested
change.
to try her out after these changes.
I've played a
'Cause
couple
I need a
games on
backup
her.
for my Zyra, and I like the idea of her.
So I have 2 games on her. My 1 game in solo queue, I had a 1 in 24 combined top jungle. So that didn't count, and then I played her in a flex game or a normal, and my top laner left the game at level 3. But like she felt strong in lane. Like her E Q combo with Electrocute is like half HP at level 2. It's actually insane. And your W, you have such good wave clear. Your W procs on turrets, so you have amazing like push potential in towers.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to try out. I know her E change was huge. Because
But they just made the root
duration
actual.
of the first person hit, and it increased the root duration of the second person hit. And you
Mhm.
don't need to hit 3 anymore to get its max root duration. You only need to hit 2. So it's much better.
I think Echo is really strong right now. Every Echo I've played against, I've won lane. I've gotten early MR, but he's still like 100s to 0 me.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, and
insane.
You'll see good Zoes out there.
There are good Zoes.
Yep, and
I feel like Zoe.
Oriana is still super strong, and actually Corky's back a little bit now too in mid.
Well, they're gonna buff
he
him
can-
because of his new skin, but
Yeah, that makes sense. His Corgi skin. Well, then Fish should get a buff for his
No, Fish
prestige
should-
skin that
Hate
he's
that
getting.
skin.
yeah, Fizz
So
skin's
much.
horrible, and Fizz
It
doesn't
is
need a buff.
so ugly.
Fizz is
Yeah.
already sitting at like over a 51% win rate, and if that champion has a positive win rate, its numbers are too high.
Everyone hates it. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just doesn't even like look recognizable as a league skin to me. Like
Yeah, it looks really bad.
Really fake. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, but outside of the say Zed, Talon, Yasuo, I'd say your mages either control, burst, or assassin are all
Like
super
literally
viable.
anything, like anything besides like a tank. I think Irelia is actually really strong in mid still.
Really? I don't think she's as good.
I
as
think
mid.
if you're playing into squishies, it's actually
That's-
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean she's still obviously super like so if you're up against say a skill shot reliant mid, then yeah, because Irelia can just fucking bounce all over the place and it becomes very difficult. I still
You
think
can freeze
her
the
better
wave
spot's
with
top
Aurelia.
right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
you
don't
know who
think it
on
is.
top who's really devastating is Vladimir.
I think Vlad's just sleeper OP, but no one plays him because he's not very like interactive.
Interactive,
Like
yeah.
I think it's just like a champion. I think he's just low-key sleeper OP almost 100% of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
I hate Vlad. A good Vlad is just miserable to play against.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take like all that much to understand, but you have to like understand how to play his early game.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah.
But the reason I think Irelia may actually be better mid instead of top now is because Irelia doesn't beat the bruisers who take Conqueror now.
Yeah, she needs the right matchup top. I'm with you on that.
I think she's super good
It's not
into
the best blind
squishes.
pick top, but
If
I
you're
still
good at
think that she's
Irelia, I
good.
think that she's good, man.
I can see that. What's left? Support?
Support and AD. So AD,
Oh, we talked about AD already.
we kind of talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it enough. Support? Here's a surprise, everyone listening. Everything's viable.
Yo,
But
I
mean
got
that
some
more
crazy
in
news.
support than any other position that we've already talked about how viable everyone is. Because right now, your burst mage supports are viable. Your Zyras, your Brands, your catcher supports, Blitzcrank and Thresh, very good. And your enchanters are actually probably your top win rate guys
Yeah,
right now.
I think
because
Sona,
of how strong
Nami, Janna are
ADCs
your top three.
Yep. So Janna, Nami.
I think
and
Nami's
then
actually the best support in the game.
Yeah, Nami is excellent.
If you have a Nami, if you can play Nami,
She hits
like,
bubbles. Yeah.
it's not even that. Like, you don't have to hit bubbles to play Nami effectively. And, like, that's the sad part.
That's sad. That's
That
wrong.
is sad.
Like,
Because
using your W in a team
W is
fight,
so strong. Yeah.
because it can bounce, it can heal, and it deals damage, which its damage isn't crazy, but the heal is crazy. You have Airy, you have your E, auto attack buff bubble thing with the slow.
But
Your
remember,
ulti
her
is
passive
super
also
good.
increases the speed. So when you throw that onto your ADC, it slows whoever they're shooting and gives them speed to catch up to them. So
Yeah, and you're giving him Arden.
yeah, so I'd say everything's viable, but your enchanters are just a little bit above the rest right now. So
If there was a couple supports I'd tell you not to play, it's Nautilus, it's Rakan, it's Galio, it's Shen, and Tahm
Didn't Rakan
Kench.
just get a buff?
he
I
did just get a
I
buff,
still
but I
don't
don't
think-
think it'll put him back there.
I don't think it's gonna matter. He's sitting like at like a 47% win rate. I just think like, because he is really impactful, but I don't think he's a support that can.
That can carry is what you're.
No, I don't want to say carry because it's not because he doesn't deal damage. I just feel like he offers a lot of CC, and he's slippery. But if you're caught, you get blown up, and there's just
and
no
you
way
die
around
before you
it.
blink. Yeah, he's just so squishy right now.
And
I agree.
like-
Shen, Rakan, Galio, they're all not in a great spot for support right now.
And like, obviously every champion that get caught and gets blown up is instantly becomes useless. But if you're tanking, you get caught, you take a lot longer to die. If you're an enchantress and you get caught, well,
You were too far forward.
You were too far forward, and you probably still impacted it somehow because you probably got redemption. You have a self heal on your champion. You probably have a slow somewhere. You have some form of CC, whether it's a knockback, a knock up, like.
I think the point is Rakan is easier to catch because he's flying at you. So yes, if you catch any of the enchanters or any of the burst mages, then they're gonna blow up right away. But if you catch Rakan, it might be because he's coming in to try and do something, and that's the only thing that he can do.
He's like
got a
Pike,
W
but
in.
unarmed and without
Yeah,
the ghosting ability.
Only Pike's good.
Yeah.
Pike will one shot you, and
Right,
then
right.
leave vision and come back full health.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be down to
I was thinking
1%
like
health.
you're like going in, yeah, but like Rakan does that, just is vulnerable.
He goes in and then stays
Pike-
there
Pike
with his
isn't-
dead body.
If I had to put like 5 supports in top 5, I don't think it's actually that hard. I think it's Nami, Soraka, Zyra,
Janna.
yeah, the Janna's
She's
really
so strong
strong,
right now.
and either Lux or Sona. Like honestly, like one of those two.
And Nico might climb that
Sona got
too
a lot
now
of
with
nerfs.
her increased E.
Yeah.
See, the only problem with Nico, I feel like it's the same problem with Lux. I think just Nico is gonna have more of a problem with it. Is that her Q, like, will one-shot the back line. So if you E through the wave to make your... So the tick... Why Nico is such a good solo laner is because you E through your minions, it speeds up the speed of your E. So it makes it really hard to dodge. And it also increases the root duration.
Yep.
So you instantly... So you get your E, you get all 3 of your Q procs, and that... Usually if you're Eing through the wave, they're probably by their casters, and you pretty much clear the 3 casters every time. Granted, you're not building as much AP on Nico support early, so you might not clear that backline, but you're taking XP away from your AD carry, and you're putting your support item on cooldown for killing minions.
I get you. I understand that.
So I think she definitely could be. I think your W harass is really good. I think your E snare is actually an ability, and I think your Q and your ulti has insane damage numbers, so you don't have to build that much AP to make it actually like blow someone up. The only thing is like it's really easy to see coming, and if you're not,
it's hard to hit.
It's hard to hit if like unless you're in the middle of a team fight. If you're in the middle of a team fight, like you either they walk out and they lose because they're taking a bunch of damage from your team as they walk away, or they stay in it and they take 700 damage for free.
And they get stunned.
I think Brand's a good support too, but I mean,
I do as well.
I don't think Vigar's a great support.
He isn't right now. I think Morgana is in a pretty good spot too. I've seen a lot of Morganas. She's good at nullifying a lot of what other people do with her shield. So, and you still have that catch factor with her Q.
Yeah, and you have to be a Morgana. Like a lot of the Morganas I see in solo queue don't actually like they have the points in Black Shield, but it's like they use it too late.
Oh,
like
yeah.
like Morgana is a champion that if you're gonna play, you have to put time into playing it. I feel. Because she's pretty straightforward with what she does, but like learning how to predict and where to spell shield and all that stuff is what makes the champion like not just free wins.
I find myself really familiar with her skill set. Like it seems to fit my playstyle pretty well. But yeah, I would say that's true.
And fiddle support is back. I don't know why, but it is. I don't like it.
Because the reason fiddle support is back, you may not like it. The reason I do like it is for one thing, is it makes all those dancers stop and just walk slowly. And I think that's well deserved because in a world of skill shots, when you have Aurelia and everyone else dodging and dashing all over the place, and then they get too close to you, and then you're like, just stand there.
Because just stand there
and click CC. And I think that they're with how not great a lot of the top tanks are right now. Say like a Maokai. You don't have a whole lot of point and click CC, which is giving them their power.
I don't think you have any point and click CC anymore.
There isn't much. I agree, and that's
besides fiddle. What is there besides like?
You got like Annie's Q.
Okay.
You got Nautilus's R, right?
Well, okay. Let's say not involving ultimates.
Okay, not involving ultimates. You got Annie's Q.
You have Rammus taunt.
Yep. You got Maokai's W.
Yeah. You have Blitzcrank E.
Yep. There's a
Leona
few out
Q.
There. Leona Q is a good
Lulu
one.
W. Karma W.
Yeah, Lulu W. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a bad one.
Yeah, I don't.
See, I didn't want to bring up the champion because I don't want anyone playing it and actually despise that. That might be one of my most hated champions, actually.
Lulu, yeah. You can just do it through your win wall.
But yeah, I mean, they've obviously they've changed a lot of, like Tarek used to have one, and now he doesn't. They've taken a lot of it away. Vayne's got her point and click CC.
But it's
or push.
I guess we can count it. I don't want to count it, but
Jace, he's got his hammer. But the point is that it's not super prevalent, and that gives power to the mobile champions.
Yeah,
I just don't like fiddle. I don't want to see him anymore.
It's fair not to like fiddle. Fiddle is my favorite character to play in ARAM.
No,
brutal in ARAM.
Yeah, but I'm the fiddle god, not you.
Fair. Everyone calls you fiddle god.
Thresh god. Like I'm literally just the god of gods, to be honest.
Let's see.
A lot of people praise you. That
Power
happens
over
a
life
lot.
and death.
I mean, do you blame them? Speaking of praising me, so on the last episode, we told the story about the guy who noticed me in game, and he told me that he didn't like me. Zil, you weren't here for this, but this
It was a
happened.
No,
really
I
good
wasn't.
story.
I
It
needed
was-
to be though.
It was
Holy
awesome.
crap!
It was.
There's nothing better than getting that moment of fame and finding out that you're just disliked for your fame. Like, oh, I recognize you from the LOLA podcast. You know, all 4 people out there who
My
recognize
least
you,
favorite
and
podcast.
I'm not a fan.
Honestly,
That's awesome.
I didn't feel like it was. But for the stream viewers, I'm putting an email that we got, which if you have anything you'd like to send into the podcast, email at lolapodcast.com and let us know. I'm gonna post it in the Discord call just so you guys can see it.
Okay.
But this was an email Blake got today. I'm a little hurt because he spelled my name wrong, so I don't know how much of a fan he is. So in the header, he wrote
As he
Astro's
listens.
self-esteem, but he spelled it with an S, which tilts me more than almost anything. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about my name. And then in the actual body, it says Astro is the best on-show main reason I listen, to be honest. Keep it up, Astro. And in both of the times he put my name, he didn't have an S or a Z.
He spelled
So it was just
differently.
Astro.
Astro.
Which, you know, this isn't flame. I appreciate it. I saved this picture. It's going to be my screen background on my phone. I'm going to like print it out and put it on my door. So every time I wake up when I'm walking out, you know, I get to see. I
Positive
appreciate
affirmations,
it. Apparently someone likes me. So I guess I'm staying around. Sorry, everyone else. But that was
What's
fun.
From? Does it say from Astro?
It says from JD. So I literally, when Blake sent me this, I figured, because I think I said I'm gonna be like from Astro's self-esteem, and we were like joking how I'd be like, Astro's is very good. He does a great job. I was like, that wasn't even me. He said he's probably talking about the new guy Astros. He's really positive. So I guess I'm getting replaced.
Yeah, we found another one. His name is spelled a little differently, but we're gonna have him
We're
on
gonna give him a
instead.
shot.
Right.
I thought that was funny. That was a good
That was
cheer
very
up.
nice of them. You should.
I
should
really
be more
appreciate
positive
it.
towards your only fan.
I was. I said no flame. I really
No
appreciate
flame
the
button.
email.
No flame, but flame.
So JD, I'm giving you a little cameo, a little shout out. I really appreciate reaching out and giving us some good news that not everyone hates me. You know, just my parents and all my friends. And
The world's a crazy place when not everyone hates Astros.
so, do you guys want to
Sweet.
talk a little bit about 9.5? I mean,
Yeah, we could talk a little bit about it.
we're 45 minutes in.
I
I'll
think
pull
we
up the
missed
patch.
Kale, if anything else.
I really didn't
bring
want
up
to talk
patches
about it.
sometime. No.
I really hate the champion. I kind of hope everyone stops picking it.
I think they will after they play her.
So we just went through what's strong, and you didn't mention Kale. Yeah, you don't want to play against it.
I don't want to play with
Kale-
it
Yeah,
because
Kale
they
is,
literally do nothing.
is possibly the worst design character that they've ever created. Now you
Okay.
have characters like Cassidon, right, where everyone knows they have a weak early game and really strong late game.
Right.
And in Kale, they have created a character that no matter what they do, their early game is the worst ever designed, and their
Okay.
late game is an instant win. So now you've created a time clock, and it is called level 16 for Kale. It doesn't matter if she has one item at that point. She's 0 and 12.
Right.
She has true damage, shred, and all she needs is what?
I was not
Pin
happy when I
fuse.
saw the true damage. Yeah.
Yeah. So she has true damage, ranged, everything going her way, and can just insta carry a game late.
Okay.
But to get to that late point, you have to be completely miserable for 15 levels because you suck. There's nothing you do well, and you don't even survive that well.
You know what you do well?
What?
you let your team down.
Yeah, that's what you do. So
'Cause here's
basically,
my
if
biggest
your team can play 4v5 for that 30-35 minutes that they need to, then you can win late. But then your team probably could have won anyway.
here's my biggest issue with the champion, and I don't care that it's like a time clock. I think of this Kale kind of like an over exaggerated version of Gangplank is what I used in the Discord, where you have one of the weakest early game. Not right now anyway, but like back then after they had just reworked him and stuff, he had like a really bad. He had one of the weakest early games.
Yeah.
And you hit, max level Q, max level barrels. You have your Triforce, your lethality item, or I guess back then it was just like a crit item, an IE, and you literally could two-shot anyone. Like you were just a monster. Well, they did this, and they went to the extremes on both ends. They made the early game even worse, and they made the late game even better. My issue isn't that like, oh, the champion hits like a level threshold or an item threshold and instantly becomes one of the best champions in the game. Because I feel like that's a lot of like the late game AD carries, like the Vaynes and the Kai'Sas, your Master Yi's in the jungle. Like I'm fine with the champion having a weak early game, but what I'm not fine with is, the champion has such a weak early game, so it's no longer getting played in a lane. It's getting played in a jungle to where it's harder to exploit its early game because the laners should be helping the jungle, but the laners are instantly they're sacrificing their own lane to help their jungler. Your jungler is still going to fall behind, so now the enemy jungler can bring his lead into any lane he wants, and it's uncontested because if Kale shows up for the counter gank, or
No one
you show
cares
up for
if
the
he
counter
sucks.
gank, you win like almost no matter what. Like
Right.
it's actually insane. Like
I think it's a really poor design. I'm really disappointed because
Okay, you mentioned it was a poor design because like the scaling factor. Like, is that all it is for you, or is that the major problem for you?
so
Or
so, so they took a champion that was a early game weak champion, late game strong champion, right?
okay,
And they just tripled down on it. They're like, okay, we're gonna give you literal power breaks on your level. That's what your passive is, right? So
okay,
at 6 you gain this, at 11 you gain this, at 16 you gain all of these things. And so what they did is that they painted themselves in a corner because they made, like Astro said, they made that end game so fucking strong, so ridiculously, outrageously strong that they had to make the early game so
okay.
much weaker. And they if they balance out that level progression on our passive a little bit better, I think it would make more sense and make you feel better. You could play the game actually
Do you
in
think
the
that could be
first.
done in patches though? Like, I
I
mean,
think it
obviously they're
can.
not going to be
They've gotten a
like,
lot of bad feedback already.
yeah,
The skins are all changing because across the board, people absolutely loathe pretty much everything they did with their skins, but especially Aether Wing Kale.
it was
Um,
bad. Yeah,
it blew up on Reddit. I almost never like anything on Reddit, and I liked the posts because it it is awful. Like they completely changed the feel of the skin. Like I get it. So a lot of these skins they've improved, and I think that's great. Like when they give improvements. But when you take what is the most popular skin for a character, and you completely change the feel of it, and then you don't listen to the feedback on PBE, and it hits live, and everyone is pissed
it
off, and
should
then
blow up in your face, and you
right,
should listen.
and then on
Yeah.
like Twitter the very next day they're like, "We're making changes. We promise. We messed up." And I just don't understand why the PBE feedback wasn't listened to more. It's like you had to wait till it goes live for one
Yeah,
day and then
it's like they're
realize
not the
that
real player
oh,
base.
literally everyone hates it, not just the noise chamber that is PBE or Reddit. But
Hmm.
it, it to me that was a deaf moment from Riot because they really missed what people loved about the skin, and
Hmm.
they decided to push their own agenda into the skin, which was not a good idea. I'm hoping that the changes they make help people feel better. I mean, it's not a big deal for me. I'm not a Kale main. I don't plan on becoming a Kale main, but I do feel bad for people when they become really attached to something. And it's always rough when you go through a rework anyway, right? You like the character for a reason. A
Yeah,
lot of
no,
times,
I played Kale rarely, but it was one of the champions I tried to learn. So I was looking for, and that was a skin that I actually bought. and I don't buy a lot of skins. So
Right.
yeah, that
Because
was good
it
to know.
really improved her play earlier.
It
You know, like
did.
it felt smoother. It was a cool skin. It had a cool like feel to it. It has like this like mystical, you know, like technological feel to it. And then they changed it into like a just like pure robot, you know, like taking over the body of the host or some shit like that is how
Mhm.
they described it. And it didn't go over well. To their credit, they are working on changes. But I feel like the Kale rework thus far. I mean, hell, we're fucking what, 1 day into it, 2 days into it. They can change it and they can fix it, but I think it missed the mark.
What do you
And
think about the ultimate?
I like the ultimate actually. I think
mean,
the
Okay, me
ultimate
too.
They
is a good
kept it
change.
similar.
So what she does is it's almost like a channel, right? So
It's a
she
channel
It's
because
kind of
she
like a
can't actually
Nico R.
she can't attack during it, right?
right, which is a good change because when she would cast it on herself, she would be literally unbeatable, right? And when she
Mhm.
would be late game with Ginsu's and she just like slaughter you. So I think that was a good change. I think it creates a more dynamic because she can channel it on someone else who's diving in because then you have all that damage from the swords that come down after the invulnerability ends. There's
Yeah.
a lot more they can do with it. I think that was a good change. It's not that I don't like her abilities. I
I
don't
don't like
like
how they
the
did it.
design. Yeah, that's what it is. You might be able to keep everything about Kale the same and then just rework her passive, and it might be a successful rework. But in my opinion, right now they just painted themselves into it.
Mhm.
So I want to point out something because we talked about Silas and Tank Silas being a problem, and he did get hit in 9.5. They upped the healing and the scaling on his W, and they upped his. Okay, he didn't get nerfed. He got buffed.
Yeah, he got
Like
buffed.
really dumb. But Silas's biggest issue right now is he has a bug with his W where it procs twice, and he gets twice the healing, and that's still not fixed.
And he's been disabled in pro play because of it.
Correct.
So, and abuse that Silas W right now, guys. It's free low.
So I don't think this is the biggest change, but since this podcast has kind of created a opinion on the champion, I'm gonna bring it up. Akali has been changed.
Yes.
So they changed her passive, so the edge of the movement speed duration, when you get the spinning, they increase the duration to 2 seconds. At the edge of the ring and outside of the ring. So she's still revealed by turrets on her W, but she only needs to exit and re-enter her shroud once to extend the duration of her shroud, which will do for a max
It's
of
a
3 seconds, rather than extending it by half a second if you
each
walk
time.
out 6 times or whatever it
Yeah.
was. They
She
buffed
only needs
the
to walk out once and walk back in once, and she's got 6 seconds on there.
yeah,
Wow,
and
that was delayed.
and they changed her E a little bit. They front loaded the first cast damage and just took the damage off of the second cast. So when you throw the dagger, if the dagger hits, it does more damage, but when you follow it in, it does less damage. And then they lowered her ulti cooldown by 20 seconds at level 1, 15 at level 2, and 10 seconds at rank 3. I don't think this fixes her problems in the game right now, but I mean,
I think it'll exasperate some of her problems, like just having to leave Shroud once and enter back for 6 full seconds of untargetability, as long as you're not under a turret. I don't think that's smart design, and I think that takes up too much of her power. And that's why she's going to be really weak in solo queue still. But I bet you'll see a couple people swing in pro play.
see, no, I don't. I think it's the opposite. I think it makes her a better solo queue champion. I think Akali can 100% 1v5 a game. I think she does a ton of damage if you can play her. If you know how to play the champion and you can get through her early game, you 100% can still carry games. I think the reason it's so bad in LCS now is because, one, it was picked into certain matchups, other than when it like first came out with Super Broken. It was good into like it was good into Aatrox and Urgot, right? That's when it would get picked top.
Yeah.
And then it was good into almost anything mid besides like LeBlanc and Lissandra and Galio. But the problem is when you take the healing off the Q, like that was what's made it like sustainable early game. The W early game wasn't like because you weren't diving early game.
That's true.
You didn't have the damage until 6 to even like take all that health off of someone in one go. Unlike you did with old Akali, when like your Q you could proc your Q without walking away or past them.
Right.
I think if you're gonna play her in solo queue, that you need to really learn how to play her and learn how to get through her early game. And you need to be really good on assassins. But I don't think this makes her any more viable in pro play. I think the champion is still bad because of early game issues. Kind of like Kale. Except
Not
for
as bad as Kale.
Kale, you don't need to play as well.
Ban Kale so that you don't have a person on your team who picks Kale. That's the law of 9.5. Because you get that first Kale and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Misery.
I said this too in the Discord today. Kale's going to become the new Yasuo. It's like Kale on my team versus Kale on the enemy team. Because that's literally how I feel about it.
Yeah, the Kale on the enemy team, they're going to stall till 16 and then...
The Kale on my team is playing jungle and completely useless. The Kale on the other team like somehow makes it out of the game, and I don't get it. I hate this champion.
It's really, I really struggle with it. And the worst part is I think it was Riot August who did it, right?
Did the Kale rework?
Did the Kale rework, I think. Whoever was set up for the Kale rework, I'm almost positive was someone who I liked multiple of their champions, so I was excited for it.
I don't think like the ability or the rework itself is bad. I think how they did it is bad.
I agree.
I think you're too polarized. Like your early game is way too weak and your late game is way too strong. You need to reel it in. And I mean, we have this problem all the time where you release a rework champion or a new champion and it's either super broken or it's super bad. And then, you know, if it's bad, you buff it, and then it turns out that the champion was actually just sleeper OP and now it's super OP. And then if it's broken and you nerf it, it's like, well, you know, we're not going to nerf it right away and completely gut it because we just made all these skins for it and we want it to sell.
Yep. But on the plus side, most of the Kale skins didn't get any better. So the only one that got, like, I think the Iron Inquisitor skin got better. And
yes, it did.
Pentakill's still good, I think. And the Riot Kale skin, I think, is still pretty good.
So
I find it so annoying.
I haven't even looked at all the reworked ones.
But yeah, the Aether Wing got gutted. So
I mean, honestly,
I
didn't.
1820 on it. It doesn't even have a unique back. Just uses the standard back.
I didn't really like any of the old Kale skins anyway, so I don't think it really matters.
I thought Aether Wing was good, but
I just think the champion as a whole just was like kind of, yeah.
When I first started playing League, it was with one of my friends, and their brother played and only played Kale.
See, when I first got League, I really wanted to buy Ziggs. Because I thought just the idea of this little guy that threw bombs was really cool, and he was one of the last champions I ended up buying.
Oh, God.
We got anything else to cover?
Do we have any other League stuff we want to talk about?
I'm interested to try out Vi, like I said. I've always liked Vi as a champion. I think she's cool. So I'm gonna try her out. Try out some of the. If for people who don't know, they push her into more of a bruiser. So they took off some of the damage, the upfront damage, but increased her passive, and then the way that her W works with her passive. So she's going to be she's going to be rewarded for staying in combat longer, but you're not going to pop the squishies as fast. Is essentially what they did to her. So I think it'll help her in her jungle clear as well, with being able to proc her passive more often, and and her Q doesn't do reduced damage to minions anymore. So that will help her clear as well. So. All the same abilities, just also like her R, it knocks back for longer people that you hit on your way to your target. So like before it was like a 0.25 second knock away, now it's a 0.75 second knock away, I think. And it does full damage to them, I'm pretty sure. So even though you aren't going to burst your target as fast, you're going to deal more damage to more people in the fight. So I think it's an interesting change they're making for her. I hope it helps her out. I think she's a decently cool character. So
They
that was one of the
increased
bigger
the
changes in 9.5.
knockback that she passes through by 100,
Okay.
and they made it knockback longer. So it was a 250 range knockback over a quarter of a second, and now it's a 350 range over 3/4 of a second.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
The only
I'm
other
interested in playing her.
the only other league news is they extended Earth.
Oh yeah. They heard what the people wanted. I've played Earth. I hate Earth. I
I
think
hate
it
it
was
too.
I think
the
I have to be in a
worst.
super I have to be in a certain mood to play Earth, or just like
I have
Give
to
me
be
ARAM.
fucking
Give
drunk
me
to play
ARAM
again.
over
Yeah.
a roof every day of the week. By the way, if you're interested in hearing an all ARAM podcast, let us know, because I'm thinking about putting one together.
you
Yeah,
know
and
you
this will
know
be the group that does it.
you know what has been requested, Danger, that we decided to that we think we're gonna start.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So we had a couple people ask why we don't cover LCS, because they went back and they were listening to the podcast we did around World, and they enjoyed the conversation. And I think one of the main reasons is our podcast group isn't the size of like the network like T-Force, where they have like 3 different podcasts and they have like 12 plus podcasters. We have like 5, and
Plus
like
or minus a half.
To be fair, Leakcast has 3, and they cover LCS. So, but yeah,
but I think like the thing around LOLA was it was always about like the game and like getting better at the game. But and not a lot of us like watch LCS every weekend, unless it's like playoffs or stuff. Besides me and Danger, and I think Blake, but we didn't want to put anything else on Blake. So I think we're gonna try and do it this weekend. Like cover this weekend's LCS in an episode. I think we're just gonna do it as a YouTube playlist for now. Just so we don't
Okay.
have to scramble the episodes when you're looking at it on Spotify or anything like that. So we're gonna try it out. We're gonna see how it goes. If it goes well, we might look for another person or two to pick up, just so it's not me and Danger every week, and we just have a little bit more flexibility. Because this is all volunteer, and we take our Thursday nights to do a podcast. We do plan on only covering NA.
Even though I love LPL probably the most, I watch LCK and I do watch all of the. Well, it's not EU anymore. What is
LEC.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I watch them all. But I think most of our viewers only know more about the NA. So
NA
we'll
or
give that a
LEC.
go and see how people like it, and if they like it, we'll keep it going. We could expand it if people wanted it expanded too. Just play it by ear.
Yeah, we've had some good ideas for episode ideas that you guys were interested. So if you have any more of those, pop them in the Discord, message any of us, send an email, and we're looking to doing some more fun stuff that you guys are like interested in. I think that's it for me. Anything from you, Zil?
no, I think it's fun that we talked about skins this episode.
We'll talk about skins more then. We have a request from someone in the podcast.
Have a skin episode. Just talk about the best and worst skins in League.
Oh, I think that'd be kind of fun. I got a lot on my worst list.
I think the worst list is a lot better than the good list.
Is it weird that I care about splash art like more than skins sometimes?
No. I oftentimes will only buy a skin based on the splash art. A lot of times I play muted. I play with music or something like that, so I'm not listening to the VOs or like that.
Sure.
But what I like is when you're loading and you're looking at like a cool ass splash art, like Urgot's crab.
Right.
Crab God.
Yeah,
that
that splash art is
that's a
so good.
badass splash art. Like it like puts you in the mood to play. I'm like,
Absolutely. That's like Guillermo del Toro kind of shit. It's good.
Yep. Yeah, so no, I'm with you.
I like animations. I think how the skin plays is my biggest thing. I think just like how it looks and then like how it feels.
It's definitely my biggest criteria for when not to pick a skin, right? Because like the skin has like a funky animation I can't deal with, and like
Yeah.
I'm like done. Like no, absolutely not.
I
I
agree.
rarely find skins that boost the feel of the character.
I think there's a few that just make it feel better, like whether or not it's like particles are harder to see and harder to dodge. Like Eye Blitzcrank feels
Oh,
like one of those skins.
it's always bothered the shit out of me. I Blitzcrank's hook. It's like, oh yeah, that hit me. The invisible hook. Thanks for that. When it first came out, I was like, I don't know how this isn't disabled. I was so pissed.
Oh, I agree. I felt the same way.
I
I bought
feel
it
like-
literally for that reason, so I could get free wins.
What's the gun goddess misfortune or whatever that's called?
Yep.
Yeah, like that one to me is fucked up. Like I can't tell when she's doing what. It all looks the same to me. And then
That's
different
because her
things happen.
animations didn't change. That was like a big problem with that skin. I don't know if they ever fixed that.
I don't know.
hate Misfortune. Well,
All right, that's all I got.
All right, we'll call it an evening then, gents.
All right, everybody. Good night.
Good night.